What's going on, guys? Real Patriots Fishing coming back at you with another episode here. Today we're going to be learning how to pour baits, soft plastic baits. All those unused soft plastic baits that I've been throwing away, I finally decided to buy a couple things and see if I can make my own baits, replicate the baits I've been using, and see how they work. So last night I pretty much got all the stuff in that I needed to kind of start, bare minimum. But a couple things I've learned since last night that I didn't really see on YouTube. I did see most of this stuff on YouTube, but there was a couple things that I've learned just by doing this last night, the first couple batches, and some pointers that might help you guys out on things to do. So first things first, make sure you always have your safety stuff if you need it. You know, a pair of good gloves to handle hot items, a good ventilated area, because this stuff does kind of stink. So I have a small fan that blows most of this stuff around. I'm in a big, 20 by 30 garage, so it's not really a big deal for me. But what I'm doing, just so you know, is I'm taking all my old plastic baits, all these small ones, cutting them up, and basically reheating them in the glass Pyrex in the microwave. So with that being said, one of the first things I learned is that when you heat this up, you want to kind of go in incremental and slow periods. And what I mean by that is don't stick it in there for 5 minutes and just let it boil and stew, because you're going to end up burning it. You can add some heat stabilizer that you can buy to it to help with that. Or after my initial heat up, I won't let it go more than 30 seconds. And so when I first stick it in there, what I'll do is I'll heat up my cold batch for about 2 minutes, stir it up a little bit, stick it back in, and then I'll start hitting it for 45 seconds for twice, and then I go down to 30 seconds, 15 seconds until I get the right consistency. A good thermometer, just simple heat thermometer, stick it in there, see if you're at 300, 320, wherever your preference is for pouring. So we're gonna get that in the microwave and let that get going right now while I kind of talk about some other things. Have something to stir it with, preferably stainless steel, because it peels right off there and it cools down really fast. A little thing of water to throw your baits in after you pull them out of the mold. One of the best things that I learned last night, I did my first couple pours and I had all kinds of squeeze out, all kinds of issues with it kind of sticking around the baits and not really getting good form. So this is a mold. It's just a CNC aluminum block molded into whatever you want. You can find these online, either at Amazon, AI Fishing, softbaitplastics.com. There's tons of places, Lurecraft, all kinds of stuff. This is a injectable mold. You can also buy open pour molds, which are a little bit more difficult to master, I think. So this is why I started with this. So the first thing that I do before I get ready to pour a mold is I take a little bit of worm oil and I put it into the mold itself. And then I take my finger or I take a Q-tip and I move it around through all those surfaces where that silicone is going to inject. And the reason for this was, and this is probably basic knowledge for guys that pour a lot, but I didn't know, one thing it does is it helps release from the mold itself when you're done. But I think the most beneficial part of that is that it allows the silicone to slide in there and get into all those crevices, all those little legs, completely fill the tail, all those little parts that you're trying to get that bait to look exactly like you would when you buy it from the store. So a little bit of oil on the block itself really helps go a long way. You don't need a ton of oil, but I would suggest doing it for, every mold, every other pour. You have to just kind of see what works for you. Second thing is your injector. These get really hot, obviously, so handle with a glove. The injectors are really simple. You can get different sizes. I think this is a 3 ounce or maybe a 6 ounce. The injectors are built really simple. Like I said, they have an O-ring at the push rod. You need to lubricate this with a little bit of worm oil as well, or whatever oil you want to use. And that just helps the plunger slide in and out of this tube. There's another O-ring right here that prevents squeeze out from the actual cap itself. Also lubricate that probably every 3 to 4 pours. The other thing I learned is that right now this seems fairly tight. It's kind of fairly tight, but there's still some space there. And I didn't realize that you had to keep torquing through and push it all the way through till it seats itself. If not, you're going to get a lot of squeeze out here. All right, when you're putting the plunger in there, the injector, you're gonna go down so you kind of first feel that little bit slide of pressure, push through it just a tiny bit, and then you'll feel it kind of stop. And then after that, I always let it sit for a second, pull it up, let it drip, let it fill. It's gonna continue to kind of go down in there, and just kind of monitor and keep filling it as it's needed. And I'll show you that in a second as we inject our first one. So that's really the basics of this thing. It's really simple. You know, it doesn't take a lot of brain activity to do it. It's a little time consuming, you know, but once you get in kind of a rhythm, it's not bad. You know, the longest part is actually, you know, taking and filling up the mic and getting this stuff to melt correctly. So we're gonna go ahead and do 2 minutes. It's just little tips and tricks that I've learned. You can buy different hardeners, obviously. Like here's a hardener you can add into it. There's scents you can buy. This is a garlic scent. I have a garlic scent, and then I also have a coffee worm oil. The worm oil does two things. It'll help scent it a little bit, and it'll also help lubricate those baits so they don't dry out on you. There's all types of colors you can buy right now. I just bought one glitter chartreuse, and a little bit of this also goes a long way until we run out of those. So you can see this is, you know, in a liquid form now. And all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stir it up, get that stuff off the bottom, you know, get the side pieces in there as much as I can, and just really try and break down all that plastic. Stick that off to the side, and then we're gonna pop it back in. Now we're gonna do just 30 seconds because it's in a pretty good liquid form. We're gonna drip and make a little bit of a mess and do some different stuff, but you know, it's not that big of a deal. So now, you know, we're kind of at my second time here. Gonna scrape some of this down, mix it up real good. That glitter tends to go down to the bottom, so I'm kind of pulling that stuff up to the top. And then also what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my thermometer, stick it in here right in the middle, and I'm gonna hit at least 300 degrees before I even attempt to pour. So we're at 300 something right now, so we're good to pour. But because I've let it sit out here for a second and kind of mixed it up some more, I am going to go ahead and just pop it back in real quick for maybe 15 seconds. Then I know it's gonna be all the way up to the temperature I want. So that was about 15 seconds. I'm gonna move this over here a little bit so you guys can see everything. Give it one more stir. Get all that stuff off the bottom, that glitter, if you're using glitter. And then I'm gonna take this plunger and I'm gonna stick it almost all the way down, covering the cap, and I'm just gonna slowly draw up. So that's enough. I'll let a little bit drip out, move straight over, stick it in, and then go right away, start plunging. Slight pressure. I'm starting to feel it tighten up now. So I know I'm probably pretty good. Gonna lift it up, squeeze out just a little bit more in the end, and just slowly kind of let it cool as it fills. It's okay if you get runoff, it's okay if you spill, it's okay if you make a mess, because it peels off of pretty much everything, probably except for paper. So then I just expel the rest back into the Pyrex, and then set this to the side. I'll move this over here, I'll put the fan on, and I'll start cooling it, and it won't be long before we can pull it out. Into the injector, push down, hit that first stop, keep it on there for a second, pull it up, drip a little bit in there. You can see it kind of goes down a little bit. You're just trying to make sure that it goes all the way in, and then push out the rest. Set this to the side, throw the fan on. Bada bing, bada boom. Still a little warm in there, but we're good. You know, you don't want to pull them too early. So you want to, kind of time how long it's taking to cool. That way, you're not pulling it out of there prior to it setting up the way it needs to set up. All right, so basically just, pull this off the top, pull these out, and again, you got perfect Senkos that you've made out of your old baits. And this is such an easy process, guys. You can all do this. There's, it's not hard. The side, the block is cooling down pretty good. I can feel it right now. I could probably go ahead and pull them out of there. Go ahead and pull this off now. Pull the excess. And really you just peel this apart, and there's your worms. And voila. Perfect Yamamoto Senkos. And really, these turn out really good. This is probably one of the easiest ones to use. You can see the oil on my hands a little bit, and that's what's helped those come out of the casing really well. But really good product for, just really starting this. So you can do the same thing. I'd take those and I throw them right into water to cool them down a little bit more. I take my excess again, chop that back up, throw it into the Pyrex, and I'm ready to reheat and go to my next batch. That's it. That is it. So give this a shot. If you're a bass fisherman and go through a lot of plastics, I use a lot of plastics when I fish. I like to finesse fish. I'm not a big power fisherman unless I'm up on a deep lake somewhere. But you don't need a whole lot of stuff, really. Like I said, it's pretty easy. eBay's got a lot of stuff. There's guys on Facebook Marketplace that get into this and then get out of it pretty quick. They find out that they don't have the time to do it, or they just don't want to do it. It's too cumbersome for them to do, or they just can't get it to work right. You can really fine tune this stuff. There's lots of good videos. I think worstfishing.com on YouTube. That dude is a wealth of information. He does a lot of really cool pours, double injectors and stuff like that, and come out with some pretty cool looking baits. I'm just trying to go simple. My baits are not complex by any means, but what I fish with is a lot of Yamamoto straight green pumpkin sinkers, or watermelon red flake, or watermelon gold flake, or chartreuse, and lizards. And so that's what I started with. I'm gonna try and get into the shaky head stuff later on, see if I can pour some of those. And then, my dad, he lives out in Idaho, and they use those Mr. Twister or those Yamamoto grubs with the single tails on them for smallmouth bass in the Snake River. And I'll tell you what, you get 2 or 3 fish on those, and it's toss it away and throw it away. So, a bag of bait now is anywhere, $4 to $9 for less than 10. Usually you get about 8 or so in there. So you can make your money back really quick. And if you use soft plastic baits, they don't last long. Either the tail will get ripped off, or, the bass will rip through them, or the head will get popped off. And you're always doing things to try and save baits and get that same presentation. So go out there and give it a try. Provide some feedback on the video, guys. Let me know if there's something I missed that you have questions to. And I'm not an expert by any means. This is for the guy that's just trying to get into bait making, in his garage, for some extracurricular activity or as a hobby, and try and save himself some little money down the road. So hit the subscribe button, like this video, follow me for more information, and we'll see you on the water. Tight lines, guys.